Thanks again, Aspen, for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. So I guess tell us about a little bit about us and your relationship with food growing up. How did you, play with food if it were, and all your academic and sort of professional career.
My name's Allison Leroux. I grew up with my parents owning Amadio's Pizza in Port Credit. And so I spent a lot of time there growing up. It was an independent, kind of classic Italian-style pizzeria. And through that, I was able to go to trade shows very early on, meet mentors, and kind of observe how the industry was evolving from a very young age. So it was very neat, and that kind of inspired my desire to continue with that. I also, when I wasn't in the pizzeria, I spent a lot of time with families that really valued the outdoors and growing food and things like that, which was a very unique experience for somebody growing up in the city. And so from there, as soon as I was old enough, I wanted to start going to more international industry events. A lot of my food experiences focused around pizza, kind of inherently, and so I started going to the International Pizza Expo in Las Vegas, where I met even more mentors and was able to compete in the International Pizza Challenge, and have all of these really, really neat experiences. And so my parents continued that business throughout until October of 2023. After 34 years, they passed it on to somebody else. And in the meantime, I had decided, due to my love for animals in the veterinary industry, as well as my love for food, that I would like to study at the University of Guelph in the Ontario Agricultural College. And so that ended in me getting a Bachelor of Science in Animal Biology with a minor in Agriculture, and I just graduated in April of 2025.
Congrats.
Thank you. In the meantime, I was also able to travel around North America a little bit more. I was lucky enough to spend some time at Truly Pizza in Dana Point, California. So they're definitely considered one of the industry leaders, run by John Arena and Chris Decker and Michael Vakneen, which was an absolutely priceless experience. I learned so much, and I think most importantly, from a very early age, my earliest memories involve the family business sponsoring hockey teams and food banks and festivals, and just getting really involved in the community and giving back. And that's also something that I still carry with me to this day.
Nice. And then, as you're saying, you're growing up in pizzeria, so did you have any memories, maybe running around or helping out, whatever the case may be?
Yeah, I was involved in sort of the operation and helping out. The joke is that, we had clips that we would attach the order forms to, and so, when I was 2 or 3, I would organize the clips back once they were done being used, and slowly but surely I would start making pizzas just for fun, and then as I got older I would start working as well, and so by the end of it I was just involved in all of the operations.
Nice. So it's pretty much you grew up in the industry, you've been working within pizza for your whole life.
Yeah, I don't know a life without pizza.
Nice. So in December 2023, you opened Crowded Table Pizza, which is obviously a pop-up farm-to-table pizza business. How did that decision came about? What was the process like?
Yeah, so of course, my parents sold Amadio's Pizza in October 2023, and at the time I was in my second year or just starting my third year of university, and I wasn't really in a position to take over brick and mortar. It wasn't something that was right for me at the time, and so I had already, gained so much experience and such a love for the industry that I wanted to keep it going, but in my own way a little bit. And so having studied and learned a lot more about food systems, and having come to the realization that there was a bit of a discrepancy in just knowledge of where food comes from in an urban setting, just because people don't have access to it, I thought I would approach it from sort of a very flexible way, because obviously I was still in school and spending most of my time on that. And so I started a social media account with the end goal of doing farmers markets and on-farm pop-ups with pizza, but also sharing recipes and sort of fun facts that I had learned through school and applying that knowledge about, different recipes and ingredients that I was using. The year before that, or the summer before that, I'd kind of started this weekly series where I would go to the farmer's market or figure out what was in season at the time and then create a fun recipe that, wasn't on the, classic pepperoni, mushroom, bacon style menu that we had going. And so I would just do that for fun and share that on my personal accounts. And then I thought, this is kind of fun. It's really nice to have that creative outlet. And so that's what kind of started that, and then it kind of grew from there.
Nice. So you're saying that there's a lot of products that you use are from farms or in season type of thing. So how did you put your menu or toppings together? Any have favorite combinations of yours? Could be changed. I don't know how that works.
Yeah. Well, depending on the event that I'm doing, I'll take into account sort of the demographic that I'm serving, and then also the location where I am, as well as the time of year. So if I'm doing a farmer's market, for example, I'll go the week before and I'll talk to vendors and see what kind of ingredients I can get from them that I can then kind of piece together into 2 or 3 different pizza topping combinations. I like to have like a more simple option for people that might not be as adventurous, but I do also like to be quite creative with things, so kind of serving as many people as possible. And then, of course, if I'm doing an on-farm pop-up, I'll try to use as many things from that particular farm as possible, and everything else I'll try to source from connections that I have otherwise.
Nice. And you're mentioning your parents' pizzeria is more like a traditional Italian style, so obviously there are millions of different types of pizzas, from anywhere from Italy to US, obviously. Canada has some, I'm sure around the world there's millions of others. Do you have like a favorite style of pizza, or what do you focus on as far as when you're going up to your pop-up?
Yeah, so I think what my parents had can be described as sort of a twist on Newark style, quote unquote unofficially Toronto style. And it's sort of the take on what, would have been served very, classically over the last couple of decades. But even within Toronto area, there are so many different unique styles. And so the way I describe, I guess my pizza is sort of artisan. I do use sort of a New York style kind of a dough, but the pizzas are smaller. And the toppings definitely aren't exactly traditional. And so in that sense, I definitely have my own style. A lot of people ask me if I do Neapolitan, and I don't. That comes with a very specific set of requirements as well. So it's a very neat world being able to experiment with all of that and see what works and what doesn't.
Right. You mentioned in your social media post that pizza's meant to be shared.
Yes.
The best memories, connections I've made were a big crowded table where everyone's welcome. I'm sure that has something to do with the name. What are some of your favorite or most memorable pizza moments or memories?
Yeah, there's so many. For example, when I was little, on Friday nights before I was, working in the store on Fridays, I would spend a lot of time with a family that would have a lot of kids over, and we'd have movie nights, and we'd always order pizza. That was kind of the start of it. And then just any gathering, it's just such a great food. It can be a relatively balanced meal. It can, as simple or as complicated as it is, a lot of people tend to like it. It's a very popular food item. And so even just the premise that it's something round with a lot of slices, so you can, reach it from all angles, and everybody around a table can have a piece. That's kind of there's just so many memories like that, where, and the name came from, so many different aspects that I'm really, happy with the way it came out.
Right. I mean, yeah, I've also read that it's also inspired by a song by Highwaymen. Speaking of which, I guess you play music as well. You play fiddle. Do you feel that helps you a certain way, or does it impact the way you think about food and pizza in general?
Um, First and foremost, I think it's really, important to have that balance. I think in the restaurant industry, and I've experienced that, of course, as well. Even through school and everything, it is, very easy to get sucked into just like the day-to-day operations of the business, and it's absolutely hard to find time, because it's a hard industry to be in, hard to find time to, exercise or do something creative and stuff like that. But through talking to people, it's just such a great way to balance things out. So the music was definitely, helpful with just like a fun thing to do when you're feeling stressed and to get your mind off of things. Funnily enough, it's been one of the best networking methods, in a sense, through playing with other people at different venues and stuff. I've met chefs, I've met farmers, I've met beekeepers, veterinarians, all of these people that are involved in sort of that whole farm to table system, that are just so valuable to have as contacts as well. And so it's just another thing that brings people together, and I find it so intriguing that everybody's kind of involved in both same things, or so many people are anyways.
Nice. Yeah, I never thought about a lot of chefs. They might be into music, but even playing
music, absolutely.
thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, any form of creative thing to be doing, in my opinion, is a good thing to have in your back pocket.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You mentioned obviously you did a lot of pizza competitions and meetings type of thing. So you won first place in World Pizza Games, and you were second in traditional international division at the International Pizza Challenge. How are the competitions like? Aside from obviously getting on stage and doing the pizza itself, how was the experience like?
Yeah. So a lot of these competitions, they are really neat because they bring in people from all over the world. And so you're able to, again, see how different recipes vary person to person and country to country. And then it's just, I don't go into them necessarily with, the goal of winning. But the process of developing a recipe, again, depends on the person. Some people do things last minute. Some people spend months planning ahead. And no matter how you do it, there's so much thought that goes into it and so much innovation. Just thinking, how can I make this better? How can I make this better? How can I make this better? And from year to year, competition to competition, whether you change the recipe up completely or you keep going, there's always something that you learn from it. And so that's a really neat thing. It's also cool to be able to put Canada on the map a little bit. And depending on the location and the competition, besides the culinary aspect, you might also find the acrobatics and kind of competitions related to day-to-day restaurant operations that are, fastest box fold or largest dough stretch, fastest pizza stretching, stuff like that. And then the acrobatics, of course, as well, that add something to the competitions as well. So I was able to, in 2022, somehow pull off winning the largest dough stretch, as well as placing second in the international division for I believe it was the non-traditional category. Mm-hmm. And then later that year, I believe in October 2023, I won the fastest box folding at the Canadian Pizza Summit. So it's just something fun to keep pushing you. There are things that you do every day as a pizzeria operator, but at the same time, it's just, that community aspect where you get to, see all of your friends that, are usually dispersed throughout the whole country or the whole continent or world. And everybody comes together and it's like almost a big family reunion. So. Nice. For Pizza Expo, for example, that happens every March, and I've been going for as long as I've been old enough, and even through university, sometimes it was in the middle of midterms and I had to write exams for my hotel room with the time difference and stuff, and it was a bit stressful and a lot, but at the same time just the experience of going and learning so much, and I tend to thrive in chaos, so it always worked out somehow, and I don't regret doing all of that. So
right. Nice. Yeah, you multi-talented for sure. Different things you have to do, but you were describing to me earlier about the different competitions. But
Yeah.
I personally don't know much about those different competitions. Tell us about some of the fun things surrounding the pizza itself, other competitions maybe.
Yeah, the pizza. Every competition is run slightly differently, but they are kept to high standard in terms of rules and regulations and judging criteria and stuff like that. And so depending on the event, you might find different categories that you can enter in. Generally, that would be like a traditional versus non-traditional, where in
And what does that mean?
non-traditional,
Yeah.
you can generally make any shape, any size, any type of dough, any style, and then your toppings can be quite literally anything. I mean, provided it's edible. And then your your traditional will typically be more like sticking to more of a round shape. You might have size regulations. You might have a specific number of toppings and then a specific list of toppings that you're allowed to choose from. And so that might be your typical like pepperoni, mushroom, bacon, peppers, ham, sauces, etc. And so that's kind of, both come with their challenges and their, they're both very fun to enter. And it's really neat to see what people come up with in both. And then you might also find subcategories that you can do, like Neapolitan or Detroit style or pan pizzas or things like that. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. I've been helping out with the Restaurants Canada show and getting there. This is now our 4th annual competition, I believe.
Just on pizza?
So they, at that particular trade show, it's the entirety of the restaurant industry. So they do have other competitions. They have culinary, bartending, barista, etc. But for the last 4 years, we have also developed a pizza competition. And so that's been really neat as sort of a national level competition for Canadians.
Nice. And then what about like the other crazy stuff like the flipping and the boxes and all that stuff? How does that work?
Well, that's usually sort of timed, and you can sign up and a couple people at a time will go and typically for those, if there's dough involved, the dough is provided, and so it's all kind of standardized. And then like for the largest stretch, for example, there's a time limit of 5 minutes, and so you have a table and flour on a stage, and you kind of stretch the dough as large as possible, and sometimes it gets pretty hairy with how thin the dough is, and if it touches the ground before the 4 minute and 40-second mark, then you're disqualified, and once that time hits, you're allowed to put it on the ground, and you have to try your best to keep it from shrinking back down, and once the time's up, and it's measured, and yeah, so it's just a fun time to test, your day-to-day skills.
Yeah, I find you're telling me the crazy thing I find most fascinating is the pizza tossing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call that? Like that particular thing to do, like where you go different tricks when you're like
it's tossing dough, like dough tossing acrobatics. I don't personally do that. I haven't quite had the time to put the practice into that, but it is very neat to watch, and a lot of my friends are insanely good at it, and so it's kind of like Harlem Globetrotters meets pizza dough, and there's a special type of dough that you use and stuff like that, so it doesn't stretch out as quickly, and it's very cool to watch.
Nice. Good to know. Actually, I would never thought about the dough itself has to be different because I guess they handle different, right? It has to be, you can't stretch because otherwise there's nothing to do, right? It just becomes...
right. Like if you're spinning it on your finger, like regular pizza dough, typically at some point your finger's gonna, break through it pretty quickly.
Right. Nice. Talking about competitions and awards, you also won the Lieutenant Governor's Ontario Heritage Award for Youth Achievement, which is given to young people who are preserving Ontario's cultural and natural heritage. So, how did that come about, and do you feel a certain way about winning it, or?
Yeah, I think that was a big moment of pride in my life. I've spent a lot of time outside of food and music, volunteering in my community and for a lot of different nonprofits, and I do it entirely because I love it. But after having been awarded that, I just feel so much more inspired. Like it's just the beginning of things that are going to happen. And I'm really honored to be able to have that opportunity to carry forward, like, you know, telling the stories of all of these people. And it's funny, a lot of people tell me, oh, you live so many different lives at the same time. And it's true, it doesn't feel like it because it's all fun to me, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But I do meet so many different people, and it's so neat to see how everything's connected in that sense. And having grown up outside and, you know, traveling throughout the province and throughout the country and visiting a bunch of historic sites and parks and things like that, it's something that I think is really important to continue sharing about and helping out with.
I see. Going back to pizza a little bit,
Yeah.
you mentioned you travel obviously to different countries to see, like, you know, United States and California, and see how they do things, and working at different places. So, tell me what, you know, in your mind, what the differences between like the pizzas you see, and what did you learn from different restaurants or locations that you've been to so far?
When I was really little, in around 2012, I believe, we actually did a road trip across Canada to for a bunch of different reasons. But one of the things we got to do with my parents was visit a lot of my dad's pizza friends and their pizzerias. So I was able to see what the landscape looks like throughout the whole country and how everybody does it. Throughout, you know, having met so many new people on my own now, it's just so inspiring to see how everybody does things differently. Everybody uses different brands and different techniques and different opening hours, all of these different things and locations. And some people prefer running their businesses out of food trucks. Some people prefer brick and mortar businesses. And each comes with their own, you know, pros and cons and difficulties. But, you know, I've learned from so many people how, and I'm continuing to, you know, learn how to adapt your menu to be more seasonal and to be more local on a larger scale, how to manage people in effective ways, how to, I mean, the pizza community, more than any other industry I've ever, you know, dipped my toes in, is such a family, in the sense that if you have a question and you know somebody who might know the answer, or somebody who's doing really well, that you can reach out to them, and there's a really, really good chance that they're going to reply and give you an honest answer and want to help you. And that's just really neat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I guess even though you're quote unquote in competition in a certain way, because you're still, you know, if I go to one place, I'm not going to the other place, but it's such a common item that really and truly it's not that much of a competition, because, you know, next week I can go to this place, next week I can go to the other place. So in that sense, I feel it's more like, it's less of a cutthroat type of situation, I felt. I don't know if it's true or not, but
yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say. I think it depends on the location and you know, but in my experience, like, everybody's just trying to make each other better and make the industry better, and so in that sense, it's definitely a great place to be.
Cool. And next question is, any kitchen secret that you can tell us? Could be how you make certain things, could be, you know, when you're working at a pizzeria, anything that comes to mind. Could even be try not to order this type of pizza because it's not good ever.
I mean, I don't know. That's a very subjective question.
No, you take your time.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, planning ahead as much as possible is always a good thing to be trying to do. It's not something that's easy to do or always works, because it's so unpredictable a lot of the times. But, you know, having as much prepped ahead of time and everything is always helpful. And just kind of staying true to what you want to do. There's also, you know, along with a lot of help, you might get a lot of opinions and a lot of, like, being a woman in the industry and stuff like that, there might be some kickback every once in a while, and just staying true to, you know, being a part of the community and being a part of, you know, helping each other out and just like figuring out what your values are and stuff like that is a good thing as well.
Yeah, you mentioned like obviously being a woman in the industry. I guess I don't know if it's an organization, Women in Pizza, is that
Yes.
a thing? So, tell us about how you feel as a woman working in the industry. Is it more difficult, or how do you think?
I think I have a very interesting perspective on this because I kind of came into the industry at a point where, at the same time as, the Women in Pizza movement was starting up. And so there are a lot of people that came before me that blazed the trail and went through a lot more hardships than I have in my life. And every pop-up, everything I do, there's, always some odd comment that I'll get because a lot of people still expect the, Italian guy behind the counter as the boss. And then it's definitely starting to change as new generations come in. And there's just so many people that act as role models and mentors, and not by no means everybody has that opinion. But it's cool to have, entered in the industry at a point where I had this network of women that were just ready to kind of support each other and lift each other up. Where, pre-internet and pre all of these events, it might have been a lot more difficult to find that support.
I see. Thanks again, Allison, for being with us. Last question. Anything exciting in the near future you can share with us?
Well, one of my goals for this year was to do an on-farm pop-up. Previously, I've just done farmers markets, which has been a really great experience as well. So I just had my first at Albion Hills Community Farm on Saturday, which was really exciting. And coming up, I have a few goals pizza-wise. And also, I mentioned that cross-Canada trip, for example, and I am doing something similar again in October. So one of my goals with that trip is to visit some chefs and pizza people I've met throughout the last couple of years and kind of see how that's changed and learn as much as I can and meet as many new people. And so I'm really excited about that. So stay tuned. And yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sure we'll hear a lot more exciting things from you in the future. So thanks again for being with us.
Yeah, thanks
All
so
right,
much.
Cool.